Okay, guys, this case genuinely disturbed me. Like, I already knew who Jeffrey Dahmer was before researching this case, but I didn't realize how horrifying the full story actually was. We're talking about 17 victims, human remains hiding inside his apartment, and neighbors living literally right next to him having absolutely no idea what was happening behind that door. And honestly, the creepiest part is that people said Jeffrey Dahmer seemed completely normal. Quiet, shy, and polite. Nobody looked at him and thought he's a serial killer. But in 1991, police entered his apartment and discovered one of the most horrifying crime scenes in American history. So yeah, today we are talking about Jeffrey Dahmer. And trust me, this case only gets more disturbing the deeper we go into it. So Jeffrey Dahmer was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1960, and from the outside his childhood looked pretty normal at first. But behind closed door, things inside the family were getting really bad. His parents argued constantly, the atmosphere at home became tense, and Dahmer slowly started isolating himself more and more. And this is where things started getting creepy, because even as a teenager, people noticed there was something off about him. While other teenagers were hanging out with friends, Dahmer became obsessed with dead animal and bones. He will literally collect roadkill and examine it for hours. At the same time, he was drinking heavily and becoming more disconnected from reality every year. By high school, some classmates later said he was already drinking during lessons, but nobody around him imagined what he would eventually become. Then in 1978, only weeks after graduating high school, everything changed. Dahmer picked up an 18-year-old hitchhiker named Stephen Hicks and invited him back to his house while his parents were away. At first, everything seemed normal. They'd listen to music, drink alcohol, and just hang out. But when Hicks tried to leave, Dahmer panicked. Later, Dahmer admitted he simply didn't want him to go. So he hit him with a dumbbell and struggling him. And honestly, what shocked me most is what happened after. Because after killing him, Dahmer dismembered the body, scattered the remains in the woods, and then basically continued living his life. Nothing happened. And somehow nobody suspected him. For years, Jeffrey Dahmer somehow managed to stay completely under the radar. He moved between jobs, drank heavily, and mostly kept to himself. And honestly, to people around him, he probably just looked like a quiet, awkward guy trying to get through life. But privately, things were getting much darker. During the 1980s, Dahmer started targeting young men he met at bars, malls, or sometimes just on the street. A lot of his victims were Black and Asian men. He will offer them money, invite them over for drinks, or ask them to pose for photographs. And once they enter in his apartment 213, many of them never come back out. Dahmer will drag his victims until they were unconscious and then strangle them. But honestly, what made this case even more horrifying wasn't just the murders themselves, it was what he did afterwards. He photographed bodies, he slept beside corpses, he kept skulls, organs, and body parts inside the apartments because he wanted to keep his victim with him forever. And somehow nobody around him realized what was actually happening inside the apartment. Neighbors later said there was a horrible smell coming from apartment 213 for months. Some people complained about strange noises and the smell of rotting meat, but Dahmer always had an excuse ready. He blamed spoiling meat or broken freezer, and unbelievably, people believed him. But one of the most disturbing moments in this entire case happened in 1991 with a 14-year-old boy. The boy actually escaped Dahmer's apartment dragged and bleeding. People saw him outside and immediately called the police, and honestly, this next part makes a lot of people angry even today. Because when officers arrived, Dahmer somehow convinced them the teenager was simply his drunk boyfriend, and police actually returned him back into the apartment. Less than an hour later, the boy was dead. And honestly, that part of the case made a lot of people angry because many believe that boy could have been saved. By the summer of 1991, Jeffrey Dahmer was completely losing control. The killings were happening more often, and inside the apartment 213, things had become horrifying. Human remains were hiding inside the fridge and freezer. Severed heads were stored in boxes, and Dahmer knew it was probably only a matter of time before somebody discovered the truth. Then came July 22, 1991, the day everything finally fell apart. That night, Dahmer met a man named Tracy Edwards and invited him back to the apartment for drinks and money. But almost immediately, Edwards felt like something wasn't right. He later said Dahmer's behavior suddenly became strange and threatening. At one point, Dahmer even handcuffed him. Edward also noticed a horrible smell inside the apartment and strange Polaroid photos lying around. That when he realized he needed to escape before it was too late. And somehow he actually managed to do it. He ran out of the apartment still wearing one handcuff and stopped police officer on the street. At first, police thought it was probably just another argument or domestic situation. But then everything changed. One officer opened a drawer inside Dahmer's bedroom and found Polaroid photos showing dismembered bodies. In that moment, police realized this was something far more horrifying than they expected. Officers searched the apartment and found human heads inside the refrigerator, organs in the freezer, and barrels filled with decomposing remains. Even experienced police officer later said the scene shocked and horrified them. News about cases spread everywhere. Almost immediately, neighbors stood outside the apartment building in complete shock because most of them described Dahmer as quiet and harmless, which honestly made the entire case even creepy because nobody imagined that behind the door of apartment 213 was one of the most disturbing crime scenes in American history. During police interview, Dahmer confessed to 17 murders and explained his crime in disturbing detail. Investigator later said he seemed calm, emotional, and strangely open while talking about everything he had done. So, in 1992, Jeffrey Dahmer was sentenced to multiple life sentences in prison, which basically meant he was never getting out again. But honestly, even after the trial, this story wasn't over. While in prison, Dahmer became one of the most hated killer in America. Some inmates were disgusted by his crime and others said they were creeped out by how calm and emotional he always seemed. Then on November 28, 1994, everything finally came to the end. Dahmer was doing a prison work assigned with other inmates when another prisoner named Christopher Scarl suddenly attacked him. He was beaten badly and died not long after from his injuries. And honestly, people had very mixed reaction to it. Somehow people believe it was justice for everything he had done. Others believe it just shows how violent prisons can really be. But even now, decades later, the Jeffrey Dahmer case still disturbs people all over the world. Not just because of the murder, but because somebody capable of doing such horrifying things looked completely normal to everybody around him. And honestly, I think that what makes this case so terrifying even today. But what do you guys think? Do you think Jeffrey Dahmer was pure evil, or do you think his childhood and mental state played a role in what he became? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video and supporting my channel. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notification so you don't miss the next true crime case. Your support truly means everything to me. See you in the next video.